I'm just getting sassy. It's the hair color, honestly.
No, that's supposed to make you go faster. Don't you know anything about cars? Stripes make you go faster.
Yeah, now my brain is working faster so I can be sassier easier.
Welcome. You are entering a strange realm. A realm of what ifs. What if movies, television shows, and video games were better, worse, bizarrer, or downright different? What might they look like? Find out on today's episode of CineCasters.
Welcome back to the CineCasters. This is the show where we watch movies or TV shows or video games and then pitch them back to one another to try and correct or work on some theming or change up and deconstruct what we saw in the original movie so that we can basically have an excuse to talk about that movie and, reconfigure it into something that we may have liked more or honestly that we may have just felt stronger about thematically or structurally. My name is Janglez and today I'm joined by Alessa.
Hello.
And we are looking at the third and last movie in our CineCasters series on the Maze Runner trilogy. This is The Death Cure. Now, this movie is interesting. Do you know the controversy surrounding this movie? Controversy,
no.
Quote unquote. So Dylan O'Brien, who plays Thomas, they were shooting a scene and was injured during the filming.
Really?
Yes. I don't know exactly what happened. I don't really think it's relevant, but he was injured severely, so much to the point where he had to have facial reconstruction surgery. And
shit.
Yeah, and so that's why this movie there was 2013 to 2015. That's why this one took till 2018 to come out because he took something like a year to 18 months off between filming.
Wow.
So that his entire face and body could heal. So I don't know what happened, and that's why I say controversy in quotation marks because I don't know if I'd really call that a controversy. It was just a big deal because whenever a star gets hurt on set, they have a lot of insurance and whatnot to make sure that those kinds of things don't happen. So it's not uncommon, but it is uncommon for something like that big to happen. So of course, there are rumblings from both fans, audiences, and the Hollywood themselves. It was every precaution being taken to make sure that everyone was safe. Of course, accidents are going to happen when you're running stunts, but you want to make sure that every possible thing that you can do to mitigate that is in place. There's always inherent risks, but you just wonder about stuff like that. So yeah, that's the quote-unquote controversy that happened. So that's part of the reason why, and I don't know if you noticed or cared, but that's part of the reason why when they come back to this, I think they without explicitly stating it, made it so that it felt like a lot of time had passed between this movie and the prior movies. Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
I think that's because
they
of
said
that.
They had a few months or something because you could tell Brenda's hair had grown out from... It was kind of short cropped beforehand, and then it was long in this movie. Yeah. And as well, I think she said it was 3 months since the bite.
I think they said it was longer than that.
Something, long.
It must be, because if they gave an explicit number, I wasn't paying attention. But as far as I could tell, they did not give an explicit number of time, and because I thought they were just trying to leave it leave it ambiguous. Because if you look at Dylan O'Brien's face. He's way he looks different, and I don't think that's the surgery. I think that's just he looks older.
Yeah.
He looks like he's got a beard and whatnot. Now that could also be just they decided makeup and costume decided to make him look older because this is the last movie. Mm-hmm. So that's quite possible as well. But Gally looks much older. Yep. When he returns, spoilers, and Newt and Frypan both look much older. So I think there was a time shift, and they wanted to lean into that in order to make it feel believable. And then they also leaned into that with a costume. They were okay, this is the final movie. Let's make it so it feels like time has gone by. We're not dealing with a bunch of greenies in the glade anymore. We're dealing with people who have come into their own. Yeah.
Even Teresa looks a lot older as well.
With women, and this is a general thing, so. It's not necessarily true, but with women, it's much easier to make them look older and younger because women tend not to change drastically from the time they're 16 to the time that they're like, you know, over 40 or beyond, depending on how well they look after themselves, right?
I do look quite young. I
You
get
do,
carded
right?
often.
Yeah,
I'm
and you get
25,
carded.
right?
I honestly, just this past weekend, Alyssa and I were at a musical event with our band, and I straight up thought Alyssa was gonna get carded, which was hilarious.
And it's like, I'm in the band, like, just let me in.
So so it's much easier, like, by affecting makeup, like, to women, and how they dress, are clothed, how they stand. It's much easier to change a woman's age, at least visually, on screen. So with Teresa, I don't think there's actually that much of a difference between the way she
if
looks.
anything,
I
she
think
just
it's just
seemed more mature, like the way that she held herself.
I honestly, yes, I do think that's the case, but I honestly also think it's because this movie actually focused on Teresa the most, more than any other movie. Like, there are scenes where Teresa is by herself acting as the center figure as opposed to off Thomas or off anyone else, right? There are specific
I had some
scenes
issues with that.
Well, okay, go into them. Just hit me with them right now.
So in the first movie, they never really specifically said what she was working on when she was working for Wicked, but I don't think it was biology or...
I don't know. There are huge
like,
gaping holes in
chemistry.
this movie. Yeah.
There are so many. I also don't think I've ever seen this movie.
Oh, okay. So
I think I would have remembered... Yeah, I think I would have remembered watching a bus hanging from a crane.
Yeah. Well, I will say that, like, some of the visuals in this movie, they went all out on. The revolution,
really
the way the buildings fall, the way that one dude, like, Helms Deeps the wall to get into the city. Yeah, man, like, they went all out. The budget on this one was huge. As stupid as the crane thing was, it also was a neat maneuver to get them out of that situation. It's just like, what was stopping anyone from just shooting the bus? Or just
they didn't want to kill the merchandise.
Shoot the crane then.
I guess.
I don't know. It was a neat visual thing, and it kind of worked. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I think I enjoyed this one the most out of the three. Still problematic, but I think I enjoyed this one the most, and I disliked the Scorch Trials the most. Yeah.
I think I still prefer the first movie.
The first movie, I mean, all of these movies, I think what it comes down to, and I think why we've constantly been talking about how, like, it feels like something's missing. What's Wicked's end goal? What's everyone's goal? Where are we moving towards? What are we doing? What the fuck is happening? I think the movie...
Also, like, the city?
Yeah.
Oh my god. They just come out with the city just, like, out of thin air, like, okay.
Yeah. There are cities, didn't you know? I think the reason that this movie wants to be able to get away with it is because we never get all of anyone's memories back, like, completely.
Yep.
And so it feels like it can get away with this sort of like, well, you'll never know because you'll never have those memories back. Yep. And what we wind up with instead, because I can't remember if the movie is told or if the book is told from first person. I think it is.
I think it is.
And so when you never get all the memories back, it's sort of like you, as a first person, you're sort of like, I don't know. I can't know. Right. Thomas is like, I just don't know. Maybe I'll never know. And it feels somewhat satisfying. But because it's third person and you don't give that to us, instead of it feeling satisfying, it just feels like a cop-out.
Yeah.
Like, certainly movies don't have to tell all the answers, and they can be ambiguous. And lots of artsy and non-artsy movies do that, where it's like ambiguous at the end. I'm thinking specifically of like the top wobbling at the end of Inception, which some people love and some people hate. But this movie doesn't give us like a maybe it is, maybe it isn't moment. It just straight up is like, well, we're not going to tell you because it feels like they don't know. It feels like they don't know. Yeah. They don't even have the answers. They just don't know.
Yep.
And that's so frustrating.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I just had a lot of things where I was like, okay, how is Therese, how is she qualified to be working on the lab? And they had the blue liquid that's in every single, anything with like a sci-fi element, and they've got chemistry going on. It's the blue liquid.
Blue liquid. Because blue is visually appealing and it's soothing, right?
Well, yeah.
That's why they use it in all of the period commercials.
Yep. Actually, they recently changed to red.
Yes, and they did that for good reason, because nobody like periods out blue liquid.
Yeah, destigmatizing.
Destigmatize. I know people that when I was growing up, they thought like period was blue, like vaginal discharge was blue because of those commercials. Because a lot of people are not educated in sex ed, right? Especially dudes, and especially about female anatomy. And so that's yeah. So there have been people that I knew who were like, yeah, I didn't know that until somebody was like, no, dude.
It's just blood.
It's just vaginal discharge and blood. Like,
yeah,
that's all it is. Which, I don't know, like, at first I was like, ew, that's kind of gross. But then you remember, like, nah, dude, it's like, you just have blood in you. It's just blood. It's just a body. Yep. Get over it. Anyway, getting off topic there.
Sidebar
aside, because the blue is like, you have to remember, like, in a visual medium, it's visual, right? So
yeah.
Blue is soothing. I mean, it's the same thing when you have in Harry Potter when they throw the wizard lightning battle at each other. Green, it represents, Slytherin colors, and red represents
Gryffindor,
right? So that's why they do it that way. Interestingly, that's reversed from classical colors, where in Star Wars, green is the color of Luke's lightsaber, green and blue, and red is the color of the Sith lightsabers.
There's all different colors of lightsabers.
Yes, but traditionally it was green and blue, good guys, red is bad, right? Just color association. But color association can be associated any way you want, so... But blue is often soothing and good.
I mean, I guess that's what you want for a serum. I was just thinking, when we did Divergent, I think their quote-unquote serum, I think it was like...
They were all different colors.
They were all different colors, but the orange one was the bad one, wasn't it?
Orange one was fear. So the
what was the one that they sprayed out all over the city? Wasn't that an orange one or a red one?
There's one was fear, one was truth. I can't remember them all. Man, that was over a year ago.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I'll post that one maybe if people are interested in hearing more CineMasters or CineCasters series. I'll repost that one. Because I think that was the first series we did, and it went over really well, and I really enjoyed what you and I came up with that one.
You should start posting it after this.
I think I will. I thought that, like, just in comparison with now that we're on the Divergent series, I think that it was easier to pull a complex story across 4 movies for that series than it was for this series.
Yeah.
I found myself grasping at straws a lot in this series. I don't think that what I set up is concluded by my pitch for this particular series. I definitely set some things up to try and see if they would work, and they kind of worked, but the theming is way less well done because it was difficult to pull a complete story when we are constantly fumbling for ideas throughout the entire series. Do you know what I mean? Like, I felt like we never had any answers at the end. Even at the end of this one, I'll give you an example. Jansen shoots Dr. Ava Page, and I had no idea what the purpose of that was for the movie. Ava Page represents Wicked. She represents everything that Thomas and Teresa and all of the Gladers are working against. And to have Jansen come in, yes, Jansen represents like a villain for Thomas specifically, but Wicked as a representation, she's the face of Wicked. To not have them take her down, I felt was like a huge waste of potential. Like, sort of thematically. I don't mean like getting rid of her, it wasn't important. I mean, like, she was what we had set up. Jansen only comes in halfway through the second one, right? She was set up from the beginning. She was like the picture, and then halfway through this movie, she's just like, "Oh, it's over. I don't care anymore." And it's like, I don't understand your motivation. I don't know what Wicked is trying to do. I don't understand what's happening. Then Jansen kills you, and I'm like, okay, but why? I wanted to have Jansen and Thomas face off. I wanted that, yes, but to what end do we get? By having Ava as an audience, by having Dr. Page killed off, it doesn't give us more like to hate Jansen for. We already hate him. It doesn't make sense for Jansen's motivation. I guess because she just didn't want her to save Thomas. It doesn't make sense to me. That's those kinds of things are the things where I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand why. You haven't given me any why. What were the trials for? What is the cure? Why is Thomas special?
The other thing that so my understanding, and I'm not a chemist, I'm not a infection specialist, I have no idea how any of that actually works. Epidemiologist, thank you. Immunologist, whatever, like any of those. This whole time, it's looked to me, I don't know if they're taking the plasma or something from the brains. It looks to me like they were trying to do something so that the people's brains would put out a chemical that they can use to make the serum. And the serum was apparently working. But now, all of a sudden, it's Thomas's blood.
It was
so they
always
didn't need to
Thomas's
hook people
blood.
up to the you didn't have to drain people's brains or put them through all that. You could have literally just been like, hey Thomas, can we borrow your blood for 5 minutes? We're gonna do some tests.
That was also confusing at the end because we never see him throw the serum away. Like, he just holds on to it. The implication is that he may have or might have, and that's that whole like idea that I was talking about with like did he throw it into the ocean? Did he keep it? But also, by the end there, it would have just been like, Teresa has the answer. She has the ability to like take your blood and make a cure. Even though you don't like her, even though you don't like Teresa, why would you not just let her? Do you know what I mean?
Seriously, yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
because as long as you're alive. But if it's Teresa, like Teresa likes Thomas. So if as long as he's alive, she can just take blood from him. You just donate blood. Just donate blood and they can make a cure.
I guess if I were Thomas, if I were in his position, I'd be like, okay, but I just spent all of my memory trying to get away from these people, and now I find out that I'm the cure. Are they just gonna hook me up to like?
But that's the thing. Dr. Page is dead. Dr. Page is dead. Jansen's now dead, right? I don't understand why Thomas wouldn't like tell people, hey, I can actually cure this disease. He doesn't tell anyone. He doesn't do anything with it. He just he is the cure. I understand that getting away is his goal, and I appreciate that, and I think it's important, but I think there is an inherent question and an inherent complexity that was missing from the story that easily could have been added had Thomas been forced to come to grips with, hey, wait a second, I can't just, like, I have a moral obligation. The fact that I have the cure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have a moral obligation to help people. And
he does at one point hand himself in, though.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. But he has a moral obligation to help people, and yet he also hates Wicked. So it puts him at like sort of this like moral conundrum, especially after Newt's death. It works really well. And you're right, he does hand himself in, but nothing comes of it. Right?
Because Jansen kills Ava.
Sure. But also, like, at the end, when Teresa's dead, he has a cure. But like, even if he hucks that cure into the ocean,
he can still tell people.
He can still tell people.
Use my blood. I was like, I wonder what would happen if Thomas were to just give Newt like some of his blood to like drink. I was like, would that have saved him? Probably not.
Probably not, because I think the implication is that it's like you still have to be injected, and when you digest blood, you're not in like, it's not an injection, right? Your digestive system is very different. It's one of the reasons you can't get a lot of blood-borne diseases simply by drinking blood. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking specifically of AIDS. You can't get AIDS.
Have they done research into this? If you just they've been feeding people blood?
No. But like when you do first aid, if you've ever done a first aid course, right? They always tell you to wear gloves, but you can't get, as far as I'm aware, and I'm pretty sure this is correct, but you can fact check me. You cannot get AIDS through through your digestive system. Yeah, it has to be through a transfer of liquids through some other means, i.e., sex, or from the eyes, right? But it has to go into your system, not through your digestive system. Your digestive system is fucking powerful, man. It's full of acid and shit. Right, it's designed to break down foods and whatnot to their base components. Metal. Right, it's pretty fucking metal. So, yeah,
literally breaks. Well, it doesn't break down metals, I guess.
It can probably. It can break down iron in food, but I don't know if it could necessarily break down iron itself. If you were to just eat iron, this is don't eat iron, kids. don't like swallow metal bars.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. I will say there are some cool things I liked about this movie. The city,
Okay.
I think itself looks really cool. It's
Yes,
like
it
visually
does.
really cool. I did like there was a Wilhelm scream in there.
Yep.
I did like when they Helms deeped the wall. I felt like they should have spent more time on the revolutionaries. I thought that was
Yep.
an interesting capacity. I also felt like there was like the character Lawrence, who was like half crank. Super interesting idea. I needed more from him because I also liked the idea of them having to make an alliance with people they don't agree with or like, but like have to be necessary in order to get into Wicked. That's interesting. It adds a bit of depth. Jansen killed her, but why? A lot of smoke on that one gunshot that he does, and all of a sudden he's just like, I was like, why
All
is there
effects,
so much
yeah.
smoke? Yeah.
Because it's dramatic.
Yeah.
He just, committed an ultimate betrayal.
Yeah. I did think the redemption for Teresa was quick turnaround, but I did believe it. I did
too.
I did find myself being like, oh, okay, I'm on board. And I think the reason it worked is because Teresa is actually a character in this movie.
Yes,
I'm not
she
saying
is.
that her plot or trajectory was particularly well done. I think we could have spent more time with her. But I by the end, when they're at the top of the building, the burning building, and she's like, asks for forgiveness, I was like, yeah, I could see Thomas forgiving her. Like, she's certainly come around. She's pled her case. She's tried to help people. She's, she wants to find a cure. She really believed in what Wicked was doing, even though Thomas didn't. I was like, I want to forgive you. And I forgave her like for Thomas. Like, I could see why Thomas would forgive her. And I also forgave her as like an audience member.
Yeah.
Like, I know that I'm not super invested. I was invested enough in this to be like, yes, I will forgive you. This is clearly meaningful, and I clearly see the trajectory and the redemption arc. I thought the kiss was strange. Not unwarranted, but it was strange because their relationship hadn't really been romantic before that.
Yeah.
So that's my problem is like, I like this movie. I like Teresa in this movie. I would have liked more Teresa in this movie even. But because we got nothing from movie 1 or movie 2, the kiss feels really strange. Not unwarranted, but very strange.
Do you know if the franchise was owned by Disney?
I don't believe
Because Disney has
so.
a weird habit of just smushing two characters together.
Well, a lot of movies like to do that, where they'll be like, oh, these two characters. But in the books,
like
it makes much more sense,
major
I think.
spoiler for Star Wars, the 9th movie.
Yes.
Kylo Ren and...
I did ship them. I wanted them to be together, but I don't think their relationship was warranted at all. I don't think it made sense. I wanted it to make sense.
Yeah.
Right? And I like that they were together, but I don't think it makes sense in the context of that movie.
Same thing with this, where it's like, okay, they could have made sense if they worked on it a little bit more, and then all of a sudden they were just kissing. You were like, okay.
Now, you could chalk that up to also like the heat of the moment and like what was going on and her asking for forgiveness.
They just both assume that they're about to die.
Yeah, and so I do get that. But I also think arc-wise, we needed more from Teresa and Thomas if this is going to work, particularly because the movies before this center so much around Thomas. We don't get a lot of Teresa. We needed that in book 1. We needed that in book and movie 2. That's why it feels really, really strange. Same with, I will say, that when she like falls off the building, I was sad about her Gwen Stacying all over that building. I wanted her. I did want her. Now that she'd had a redemption, I did want her to like be with Thomas. At least.
But you know what? I feel like I saw it coming a mile away.
Oh yeah. The problem is then at the end of this movie, we hit this weird point where he's like, oh, I'm gonna carve Teresa's name into the monolith, into the stone monument.
Yep.
He's gonna carve Teresa's name. Fine, great, good. But was the movie really about their relationship? This movie was. He was very motivated to find her and wasn't really sure if he wanted revenge or it's there, but it's not really there because he's also dealing with Newt.
And Minho.
Yeah, and Minho, right? So let's think about when Newt dies, that's a huge motivator for Thomas to be like, if I can help find a cure, then then I should do that because Newt just died. But he doesn't carve Newt's name into the thing. It's all about Teresa.
It is right next to Teresa's name.
But he wasn't the one who carved it.
Yeah.
I almost thought that he was going to also be the one to carve Chuck's name in. You remember Chuck? That was a whole thing, except it wasn't, right? Chuck is only used to motivate at the very end of Maze Runner, and then he's basically forgotten.
He's just used, like, there's a lot of deaths that are used as motivators throughout.
Yeah,
this.
they just get fridged, right?
Yep.
And I have a problem with it because at the end of this movie, when he carves Teresa's name in, it's like, what is the point of this movie? What was the plot? What are you trying to teach us? What were the themes? Loss, punishment, sacrifice? Agency was the one that you picked out. And
the last movie.
Yeah, in the last movie. And I think that's a good one. And I think it could have made work. But I just, when he carves Teresa's name, why Teresa? Why did the producers, writers, or whatever pick that name as opposed to any of the other people that have died? What was different about Thomas and Teresa's relationship versus any of the other characters? That's what I don't get.
Yeah.
Yes,
I didn't actually look at the stone. I should have. But I was wondering if Albie's name was on there and if Winston's name was on there. I didn't look.
All of the names were on there. They did a good job of including them all. I thought that was well done.
Good.
It's just It's just sort of like why Teresa's name? Why was Thomas the one to do Teresa's name?
Because no one else liked her.
There's something to be said for that, but that wasn't the implication by the music that I was getting. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. Very, very strange. Very, very strange and frustrating.
Yep.
So you had said you didn't want Newt to die, so now Newt's dead. How did you feel about that?
Pissed off.
You didn't know
this
that
happens in every movie that I like. My favorite character always dies.
Yeah. I felt like Newt and Thomas's relationship was also not fleshed out well enough. His death is dramatic, and we certainly feel it, but Newt doesn't really...
The way that Newt's letter in the end kind of read to me was that Newt was kind of in love with Thomas.
See, now that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Right? If it was explicitly like he was explicitly like in love with Thomas.
Because he's like, the moment I saw you run into the maze, I knew I would follow you anywhere. And I was like, that'd be a really cute love letter.
Yeah.
I mean, no, it's a personal obit, I guess.
Yeah, it's a personal obituary. Or eulogy, I guess.
Eulogy.
I think it's an interesting... I don't know. Again, because the whole thing was about Teresa, him putting the name there, but he's reading Newt's letter, and he also has this cure. I guess that's supposed to be like, you don't know what the future holds. Sure, but I also don't know what the last 3 movies held either.
Yeah, really.
Right? I think we should get into pitches.
I have like one more thing.
Sure.
That I'm sure this will take us into a whole other side tangent. But again, it's
us.
Epidemiology, I don't know, but they said that the disease was airborne.
Yeah, I don't know if that was new.
I don't know either. I was like, how does this affect it? Does the serum not work anymore?
You wait, I fix all of these problems in my pitch.
So do I.
Okay.
Not all of them. My pitch is not amazing, but there wasn't a lot to work on
every plot hole I fix.
I'm glad. Also,
except for maybe my own plot holes.
There was an entire 40 minutes that were not necessary whatsoever in this movie.
Like which ones?
The entire starting scene of them.
I actually liked that starting scene. I thought it was a good motivator to remind us what they're looking for, which is Minho. Because unlike the first movie, unlike the previous movie, The Scorched Trials,
we had no idea
we had no motivation for our characters, which I tried to fix in my pitch by being like, Wicked wants you to go to the mountain, and Thomas is like, we need to go there, and then it turns out that they're just harvesting them, right? Fine, great, good. What this movie had was they needed to find Minho, right? But I also felt like Thomas had this need for revenge against Teresa, or at least to ask her what was going on or why she did it, as like a means of closure or revenge or something like that. Because I do think they tried retroactively to show, they did it in the Scorched Trials. They tried to show that he had feelings for her. So there was like a heartbreak there, and Newt calls him out on that when the rage virus gets in there. He's like, your little girlfriend, because you want to be with her. So I felt like there was a motivation that way too, for at least Thomas, but it was about Minho. That felt good because I felt like that beginning section looked good and felt good because it was reminding us of that. But you're right, it's not necessary.
And I just looked it up because there was kind of a trend in apocalyptic stuff that was like, train robberies and like almost like a mix of Western plus
like post-apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic YA novels.
Yeah, where for a while there were train heists and stuff and all of that craziness that you would find like. And I was like, you know what? I was looking at it and I was like, what? When? Because it reminded me of like Mad Max.
Yeah.
Mad Max came out in 2015.
Yep.
So I could definitely see that as like an
you're referring to
inspiration
Fury Road, not Thunderdome.
Fury Road, yeah. So I could see that as an inspiration.
Yeah.
As well as actually just
also,
quite a few
who
of
just
the other movies.
Doesn't like a good train robbery. Like, they're exciting. They really are exciting.
I feel like it has to make sense. Why weren't they transporting stuff with trains before this?
I don't think that it fits this movie. That's not the point I was making when I was saying who doesn't like a train robbery.
For me, this was my problem. It just didn't really fit the movie.
Because it's a great sequence. It is a great and exciting sequence, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Other than to remind us. Because if Sonia and Harry's were important, then maybe it would matter more. But really all it does is remind us that Minho's not there.
Ares doesn't really do anything for the rest of the movie.
No.
Whereas he was kind of a somewhat important character last time.
Well, he was way more important in the books, right? Because he betrays Thomas with Teresa.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we should get into pitches. How are you feeling about your pitch on the end and wrap up of this whole Maze Runner saga?
I really struggled, actually, I think the most with this movie. Because there was a whole lot of stuff, and I took out a lot of stuff.
Unfortunately for my pitch, it's a little long. But my biggest problem is that I couldn't come up with a parody name for it.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Like 28 Maze Hotter.
Brutal.
Like 28 Maze Deader? I don't know.
Anyways, I'd like to go first. I think I fixed quite a few things. Okay. But I also am 99% sure that there's like a huge plot hole right at the end, but whatever.
Hit me with it.
All right. So if you remember, season 2 ended with the attack on Titan. I guess I should just, we did the seasons. I'm doing a TV show instead. Anyways, season 2 ended with Teresa's betrayal, and most of the Gladers were taken away by Wicked, not just Minho. So there's more people to save. Cool. Anyways. So, season 3, episode 1 starts with Minho in his fever dream, which is, kind of a reminder of what happened in the past movies. So we get him in the Glade, we get him escaping the Scorch, and just all of the crazy stuff that's kind of happened, but twisted into weirdness. Teresa and Dr. Ava are watching, and they chat for a minute. Teresa basically says something like, I wish there was more I could do, and Ava's like, oh, you've already done so much. We switch over to Thomas, Newt, Frypan, Brenda, George, and friends.
You mean Jorge?
Yeah, Jorge. Sorry. I just was like reading and I was like, wait a minute, that didn't sound right. And they're traveling, and along the way they're fighting, like they're finding Wicked outposts and fighting people there, stealing intel, doing stuff. They're doing their own... I don't want to say research.
Can't help you with that one. I don't know what you're trying to say.
Reconnaissance? I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're basically taking down Wicked while trying to figure out where the Gladers have gone. And we can, I guess this episode will just kind of follow one of those attacks on one of the outposts, and then their frustration that not a whole lot is showing up. But they are gaining intel on quote unquote the city. And Jorge is like, hey, I've been there. It used to be this really guarded place. If it's still around, then that's probably where they are. Mm-hmm. So they're like, cool, we'll head there. End of first episode. So episode 2 starts with Teresa and Ava's presentation. They get the funding. They start human trials. We get that same scene. I didn't want it to start with, like, I didn't want that part where Teresa and Mino are chatting, because it doesn't really seem like, I don't know, it didn't seem that useful.
Yeah.
We already know that she betrayed them. Like, anyways.
I think it's just supposed to give Minho some agency.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit. And give him, like, a weapon.
Something to do in this movie.
Yeah. So then we switch over, after we see the failed human trial, we switch over to Thomas's group. As they pass through an abandoned checkpoint towards the city, Jorge gets worried, basically saying this was their last defense. If there's cranks here, then they're in the city. And then we can see them kind of going through the tunnel, getting attacked by cranks, and then we'll end on a cliffhanger as Frypan is slowing the group down by being, like, I don't know, stuck in the van or something. Sure. Episode 3, we can immediately deal with that cliffhanger as we start with Thomas's group. We see what happens. No one gets bit. Everyone continues on. We get a good view of the city, as we did in the movie. On Teresa and Ava's side, they have a falling out as Ava seems ready to give up. Jansen sides with Teresa and drives her to work late every night. So he's just like, we just got to keep working on it. Maybe if she sees how hard we're working, she'll join us again. But they both feel like they have something to lose. We know that Teresa is like, if I don't figure this out, then I've betrayed all of my friends for nothing. But we don't know what Jansen's motivation is for it. It's also through this, like, I guess, argument or falling out that we learn that the flare has gone airborne. But the thing that we learn about it is that this is a new development, and that it slows down, like, because it's airborne, it slows down the attack on the body, but everyone still will eventually get it.
Yeah.
And then we can also see that Mino and the other Gladers who have been captured are exhausted by the research, the tests done on them. So episode 4 starts with Thomas's group. They're at the wall. We can see the armed militia group. I don't remember what they were named.
The Resistance.
The Resistance, I guess. They're like pumping up the crowd, trying to just get everyone, like, you know, angry about the fact that the city has closed their doors.
Yeah.
Thomas, Newt, and Frypan, all 3 of them are identified by the drones, not just Thomas. I thought that was really stupid. I was like, there's literally 2 others right there that are also tagged. Come on. And then, security, Jansen gives the call to, like, you know, open fire. Teresa hears the artillery and watches the smoke rise from the building. Like, she's watching from the building as the smoke rises at the wall. Jansen later tells her that it was just the cranks. We're getting a little too close. Thomas and friends get abducted by the malicious people, or militia, the what are they called? We just had a word for them.
Resistance?
The Resistance, thank you. I have them as the militia people. Literally, like, that's their name people, in my thing.
Yeah.
They get abducted by the Resistance because there were members of the Resistance who recognized the marks on the back of their neck.
Yeah.
Not for any other reason. Gally is not alive in my version. And the group is basically like, you guys are Wicked, like, you know how to get in. And they're like, no, we were just property of Wicked. Like, we're trying to get in to save other people away, like, get them away from Wicked. And they kind of come to a shaky alliance that they both have the same goal, getting in and getting to Wicked, but just for different reasons. Episode 5, the Resistance and Thomas's group have found a way in. Using, I guess, tunnels. Is that what they did in the movie? I can't remember.
It's good enough.
Yeah. This movie had me so captured that I was scrolling Reddit occasionally. So.
It is long.
It is, yeah. So the Resistance and Thomas's group split up to do whatever their goals need of them. So Thomas, Newt, and Brenda do some surveillance and try to blend in. They can see that the Wicked research building is swarming with soldiers. We don't really see what the Resistance is doing. but we know it's probably nothing good. Thomas's group hatches a plan to sneak in and grab a scientist to get them through the building. They don't know that Mino and the other Gladers are there, but they're like, this is our last option because there's no other big settlements of wicked outposts that we could find in the info. And they also don't know that Teresa's there. But they assume she might be. So episode 6 is when they actually sneak in. They all split up. They have their own tasks. They don't have walkie-talkies or anything fancy. They're just, here's our tasks. Here's when we're going to meet up. We're going to try our best to do it with no communications. Yeah. Basically, Thomas and Newt are going to knock out the patrolling soldiers and steal their outfits. And then we'll have Brenda's on the same thing, getting a bus, getting transportation, because they have no idea what they're dealing with. If any of the Gladers are going to be able to like walk themselves to the gates, or if there's any more there, or what, because they already knew that there were other mazes after the Scorch Trials. I guess we'll leave it at the same, because I have no idea what to do to change that plan of, I think it was just so great, the bus getting picked up by the crane, so we'll leave it. That's their plan.
Fine.
But we don't actually know that until it gets pulled off. But anyways, so when Thomas and Newt knock out the patrolling soldiers and are getting changed, Thomas notices the black veins all over Newt's arms. Newt is like, they just showed up. I was never bit. It's airborne, right? And so he's like, okay, well, we'll get the serum and we'll get it to work. Like, we'll get you healed up and it'll be fine. And I don't remember if I mentioned it, but last episode we learned the serum doesn't work on now that it's airborne.
Yeah.
It's not working as well. So it doesn't really matter. I guess we learned this again anyways, because meanwhile, Teresa is stressing about how the serum that they had just used, like that had been working, is now not working on people who are infected via airborne flare virus. So she heads home. She's actually leaving work early for once. And on her way out, she's grabbed by 2 soldiers. It's Newt and Thomas. They're pissed because they're like, oh my God, she's here. So Teresa cries when she sees them and basically is like, I'm sorry for betraying them, but it's important. And Thomas is like, yeah, whatever, just get us to our friends and we'll leave you alone. Bitch. Yeah, basically. While they walk, Thomas says something along the lines of, Brenda should be at the pickup point in 10 minutes. We need to hurry. And Teresa's like, oh, how are you getting her serum? And then we can have that whole conversation of like, I thought she'd be dead by now.
Yeah.
And then she's kind of like, her brain is working. And then the episode ends in another cliffhanger with the empty bus, or like the bus that Brenda had just stolen being noticed in the underground lot. Episode 7 starts with Brenda evading the soldiers. She's on the bus alone. There's no kids with her right now. But yeah, they see the bus and they're like, oh, why is that there? And they just look at it and they're like, oh, must have broke down or something. She like just manages to evade. Anyways, Thomas, Newt, and Teresa free some of the younger kids. But the Gladers, like the older test subjects, are nowhere to be seen. And Teresa does some looking on the computer and finds that they've moved them up to the labs. Newt takes the kids to the bus and waits with Brenda while Thomas and Teresa go to find the Gladers. Here we can see Mino and the others are all sedated and lined up. And one of the researchers that we've been seeing throughout the movie is arguing with Jansen about taking so much of their plasma will kill them or something like that. And Jansen basically just like gets his gun out and like rolls to intimidate, Yeah. So he's just like, yeah, you're gonna do it because I told you to. And then Jansen is made aware of a disturbance, because he's security. A disturbance in the force. And then as soon as Jansen leaves, Mino tries to fight his way out along with the other Gladers. We end off episode 7 with the Resistance blowing up the door and people flooding in. So episode 8, Mino and the other Gladers are fighting their way out. They run into Thomas and Teresa. We can see the bus heading off. It's not a chase scene. It's literally just like they're just driving into the middle of the city, and all the kids are like, "What are we doing?" And it's just like, just you wait, and then they get the crane and the cool scene, whatever. Because I thought that was cool. And then Brenda meets with Jorge, and they get the kids food and water and whatever. Newt runs off without them noticing. They don't know that he's sick. Only Thomas knows at this point. So he heads off towards the Wicked Tower while the Resistance and soldiers are fighting each other. And then Teresa asks Thomas if she can draw some blood, because she's like, you don't get it. Like, Brenda was supposed to die. Like, she was bit. She was supposed to die. And yet somehow a serum made with your blood was able to save her. Like, she hasn't turned. And he's just like, okay, well, fine. Just do it quickly so that they can escape. So then Mino and the Gladers warn that Jansen is coming and they have to fight out of the building. They can jump out of the window again, whatever. Seems like a really good way to give yourself an enema. And then, so they meet with Newt out front. He's not doing well. He's like basically turned, but not quite. Like, he's still half himself. Yeah. So episode 9, the final episode, the Gladers are watching as Newt fights himself. He's like trying not to attack, but at the same time, he's just like, I need to attack. Brenda shows up and ushers the Gladers away. Thomas stays behind with Newt. Teresa puts out a broadcast. It's him. He's the cure. Same kind of thing. She didn't know that Newt was sick, but she's like, you can save people. And he's just like, well, there's one person right here I really want to save. So he's trying to figure out a way to get him into the building to maybe see if his blood is already processed enough that they could give it to Newt. But Jansen has caught up, and he straight up kills Newt. While Newt and Thomas are like wrestling, trying not to hurt each other.
Yeah.
Thomas rages, then gets shot himself. Jansen tries to drag Thomas away because he's like, you're the cure and I'm sick and I need you. But you don't have to, you don't have to be able to walk or something like that. Yeah.
That's so romantic.
But Brenda and the Gladers return after hearing the gunshot and manage to fight off Jansen, and they escape, taking Thomas with them. The whole city is burnt down, the Wicked Tower is destroyed, and a to be continued screen pops up.
That's it?
So in my brain, I had another season prepped and ready.
You're just gonna be like, oh, they didn't do a 4th season.
No, the 4th season would have been the group of people. So all of these kids that they just rescued, as well as the Gladers, who are very traumatized.
Yeah.
And basically the few people that they, like the few adults that they had that are still alive.
Yeah.
Really trying to keep Thomas alive with limited medical supplies. At the same time, maybe we could get, at the same time, they could be like, getting some of his samples of blood because he's literally bleeding out, right? And they're trying to recreate the serum, but everyone who knows how to make the serum is dead. And again, they have limited supplies.
Yeah. Plus, if he dies, they can't get any more of his blood. So there's more on the line. That's interesting. That's like actually a good plot. So because people heard the announcement that it's you're the cure, right? So now everyone is, now actually Thomas is special. It's not just an assumption.
Yes. And then it would be more based on like the rest of the Gladers as they process everything that's happened and as they try to reset up a life in the same way that they did when they were in the Glade when they get to this new place across the ocean.
Yeah. Cool.
That would be the plot of the 4th season.
Good. Dealing with the trauma. An actual good plot and it's the one that's not in the
Right?
Movies like that, yeah. No, that's good. I like that you add that fourth season, and you didn't actually change that much again. You just sort of split it up and tightened it up.
I took so much out, though.
Yeah, and I think that tightens it up because you give more time to focus on certain things.
Yeah.
So my pitch, it's been some time. So in mine, Teresa had just betrayed or they had tried to get across the Scorch. It had Teresa had betrayed them. Turns out she'd had her memories the whole time and had been working with Wicked. And then it turned out that they thought Wicked was good. They'd gone across the Scorch. The Scorch itself had turned out all to be a trial, right? Just to get them across so that they could harvest the serum from their brain, not from their blood, but from their brain, because somehow the stress the brain's ability to deal with stress, the more that they experience stress, the better that the serum is at fighting off the flare virus.
Yeah.
So that's actually canonically how it's working, which means that the betrayal that Teresa had at the end, where because she had pushed them to go to the resistance facility that I had talked about, where the people that turned out to be Wicked, but because she had pushed them, they think that Thomas's brain is going to be even more betterer, and same with Mean Hose and everyone who was there. So it's been some time since Dr. Page and Teresa went off with Mean Ho. There's others as well that are still captured, but specifically they couldn't get to Mean Ho. So it's been some time. It's Newt, Frypan, Brenda, Thomas, Jorge, and Vince are still on the outskirts of the Scorch. They've basically been intercepting more and more kids as they try to reach the Wicked facility. So there's still kids coming out of mazes. So just because the maze was used once doesn't mean Wicked hasn't been using it again and again. So there's still kids coming out, and they're explaining that they're simply being used, and that they think they're trying to find a cure for whatever affects the cranks, this flare virus. So the group sets off on an elaborate plan to save Mean Ho in a train, and that whole train thing can happen, but they get the wrong car. Instead, they do manage to save more kids and bring them back to this sort of settlement that they're slowly building, and Thomas is hellbent on trying to find Mean Ho. Newt is like, dude, we're slowly building a new society. We're fighting Wicked in our own way. We need people who are leaders, and a lot of people look up to you, and Thomas also knows he's not special, so he's had his confidence shaken, because it turns out Teresa was a dick. And Thomas is frustrated now because he's not special. He also wants to get Mean Ho back, but he's also heartbroken about Teresa because he was starting to develop feelings for her and what happened. And the biggest issue behind Mean Ho and Teresa, Thomas by himself wants to get Teresa, but everyone else also wants Mean Ho, is that they don't know where he's being held at all. They don't know where they are. And the only option they have is to take the vial that Teresa left for Thomas. That vial that she said would bring his memories back. And it looks exactly like the liquid that they used to save Albie from the first movie.
Okay.
Thomas doesn't want to take it because he doesn't trust Teresa at all, but Newt tells Thomas, we can wander around blindly to try and find Mean Ho or Teresa, or we can leave that behind and start looking towards the future, right? We've done all this. We've got to this point. Let's start. And Thomas is like, okay, fine. Newt makes a lot of sense. I'm going to take the vial. The vial is not, in fact, an antidote. Even what it does do is bring back all of Thomas's memories. It is the same stuff that they used on Albie. What happens is, or some of his memories, like Teresa said. So his memories come rushing back. Thomas realizes that he was actually working for Wicked, and he was one of the lead researchers on the cure. And that cure is based on how much stress the human brain can experience, and then they harvest the brain fluid and use that as fighting off the flare virus, which is caused by the sun. He also realizes that Wicked was becoming desperate for a cure as the world was getting worse and worse, and was putting pressure on researchers to find a way to cause more stress on humans. As a result, Thomas created and put forth the idea of the maze. It was him who did that. He also remembers Teresa being there and that they were friends, and they might have been something more, but his memory started to get hazy at this point. Something happened, and he was put into the maze as a subject, but he doesn't know what. Thomas reveals all of this to Newt in confidence, and the two of them talk about it. And this was that he was part of Wicked and responsible for the suffering, and he's super conflicted about this. But he basically also knows where Mean Ho and Teresa might be, and he's like, I need to find Teresa more than anything now because there's holes in my memory. I need to know what happened. But now he knows where Mean Ho and Teresa are being kept, and he shares this with others, but not that he was part of Wicked. And yeah, so now he's not sure if he wants to get vengeance or if he wants to get further betrayal or if he wants to know, like, because he thinks they might have been something more. So there's like two versions of Thomas now. There's like his past version, which was also with Teresa, and his present version, which is like all of the experience he actually had, not the ones he was just forced to remember. That was also heartbroken by Teresa. So it's like this weird thing going on there. But the whole group of refugees can't just leave. So Thomas knows he needs answers. And Jorge, Brenda, Newt, Thomas, Frypan, and a few others are like, we'll go with you and do this. So meanwhile, Teresa is working in the city as a researcher. She's happy to get her life back to normal and help with the research, but she can't shake the feeling like she keeps seeing Thomas around. She sees him in like everything she does. She, now that we know, actually has feelings for Thomas, but had to betray him for Wicked's plan to work, to make the stress worse on Thomas. Dr. Page tells her that they're making great strides and Teresa wants to see the effects, but Dr. Page is like, no. The specimens are too dangerous. Your work is important and valuable, but we have to continue to do it safely. You can't see the specimens. So Teresa explains that, sometimes she feels strange about Thomas. She sees, and Dr. Page is like, he's still out there in the scorched lands somewhere. As far as we know, he's still alive. So this sort of appeases her. Thomas and his friends make their way to the city, but are kept out by the giant walls. In order to get them in, they wind up making a precarious truce with the revolutionary organization that wants to bring down the rich and entitled people inside the cities. And with the group, there also happens to be Gally, which throws the entire group for a loop. They're like, whoa, Gally's alive? What the heck? And Gally is like, wait, you guys know who I am? I have no idea who I am. I don't know anything. I just like woke up one day and these revolutionaries found me. I have no idea what's going on. Apparently, I was outside of a wicked facility. I have no idea what's going on. And the Gladers fill him in, but Thomas still doesn't trust him. But he's part of this organization. So they make their way into the city with Gally's help and scout it out. They want to find Min Ho, but they know he'll be locked up tight. And instead, Thomas is like, well, if we can't get Min Ho, then we got to get to Teresa. Teresa is still working diligently, and Dr. Page keeps saying they're close to a cure. She just needs to keep working. And Teresa's upset because they're always close, but it's never good enough, and she doesn't really know what she's changing. You know what I mean? Like, she's just trying different things, but she's not sure what's going to work. So one day, Teresa again feels like she sees Thomas, but she knows it's not him. And another day, but she knows one day, it is actually Thomas. And he reaches out and explains that he took the vial, and his memories are back. And Teresa's hugely relieved and agrees to meet with him. So she leaves quietly after work one day and sees, like, they meet up, and she's like, so you remember, like, everything that happened. You remember all about before. So, like, we have to find a cure. And he disagrees. He says, I don't agree with your actions or the actions of my past self. And he, Newt, Gally, and Frypan kidnap Teresa. But in the process, somebody spots them because Teresa yells, and Newt is attacked. They escape, but Newt's slightly injured. Outside the city, Teresa is now heartbroken because she thought Thomas would understand when he got his memories back, but he doesn't at all. And she thought they might be together again. But he explains that, like, there are pieces missing from my memory. And Teresa's also flabbergasted to see Gally there as well. She's like, yeah, you died. And he's like, oh, this bitch knows me too? And they're like, yeah, she was in the Glade. Thomas asks...
Instead of Thomas asking, you know me? It's Gally this movie?
Thomas asks for clarification from her memory. He's like, why was I put into the maze if I was the one who designed it? And she explains that Wicked was desperate and they needed more test subjects, so they put Chuck into the maze without telling Thomas. And when Thomas found out, he was livid because Chuck is Thomas's brother.
Oh.
And Thomas insisted he go in after Chuck. And Wicked was like, we're desperate for subjects, so they agreed. And Teresa was like, I don't want Thomas to go because she's in love with him. And so Wicked is like, fine, if you do exactly what we want, you need to push the boys beyond their limit, including Thomas. We will let you go in, but you get to keep your memories. You have to betray him. You have to do what we say. You have to push him. And unfortunately, Chuck died along the way. And now Thomas is like, I had a brother, and like all of this happened with Wicked, and you still went back. You still trusted them. And she was like, I had to keep you alive. I needed to keep you alive. Like, you don't understand. The way that you feel about me isn't complete. You don't have all the memories. Like, I know how I feel about you. But they make a plan. She ignores. He's like, no, I can't do this right now. You are way too much for me. But they make a plan to save the rest of the experiments and Min Ho in the Wicked building. And Teresa is like, reluctantly wants to help because she just wants Thomas to forgive her. So most of the movie plays out the same way, with the revolutionaries hitting the city going to shit. But when they find Min Ho and they're trying to get him out, Thomas stops again because he sees the person who looks like him. Remember, there was a person who looked like him. And Teresa sees it too. And both of them are like, what the heck? And she's like, that must be why I kept feeling like you were around. There's somebody here who like reminds me of you. And they run after him, like book it after him, and this man is running away. When they finally catch him, they look directly at him, and he looks exactly like Thomas.
Is it Chuck?
And they want him to explain everything, and he's like, I'm not saying anything. Before he can even talk, he gets shot by Dr. Ava Page. She is happy to have found both Thomas and Teresa, because she's like, what we can accomplish together, because the two of you were like in love with each other, and you're constant reuniting and heartbreaking. Your brains are going to be so used to dealing with stress that it's going to be able to come over anything to do with the flare virus. But Teresa has like had enough. She's like, I want to know what's going on. How the heck does a sun cause a virus? And Dr. Page goes, it doesn't. But they don't believe her. And so they wind up in a scrap with her. And she's like, there is no virus. You guys are dumb. And they're like, you're lying. Like, we've seen Winston die. We've seen this happen. And they do wind up killing her. So the city is destroyed. And the pair reunite with everyone. And they sort of have like this kind of kinship reforming between the two of them. And they leave the smoldering city back into the scorched valley to search for a better place. Teresa and Thomas realize they have a lot to talk about and a lot of questions. But they seem to be like somewhat on better footing. She's still in love with him, and he's like, I see why I was in love with you. I just can't get there yet. It could happen, but I can't get there yet. But before they can do anything, Newt reveals that he is slowly succumbing to the flare virus caused by the injury he got. But of course, Teresa and Thomas heard Dr. Page say there was no virus, but they're like, she must be a liar. Like, we can see the veins. We saw Winston die. We saw the cranks. There's no way. We have to find a way to save Winston. So Teresa says that she was close to a cure. She might be able to work. So she's like, Thomas is like, take my blood. Apparently it's the best blood there is, so take it, right? And Teresa tries to make a cure, and they give it to Newt, and it doesn't work at all. Like, there's no change. And Newt tells them it's okay. And they see where the injuries happen, and he's like, it happened when I was kidnapping Teresa, and one of the guards hit me. It wasn't even a crank. And he tells Teresa and Thomas they need to forgive each other. Like, we have to keep going. Like, it's all we have. And they carry him like they try to carry him like they carried Winston in the second film. Eventually, they're able to get past the mountains, out of the scorch, and Newt is suffering, but they still manage to like carry him. And they meet up with like all the other like refugees, like Vince and all the other refugees left behind in their little city, and they start trying to like leave the scorch. They're past the mountains. And they're like going to find something new where there's no more scorch, where there's actually like living, breathing animals and plants. So they get over the mountains and they reach it. And all of a sudden, as they get over the mountains, all they see is a wall spreading out in both directions. And they're welcomed in and told to wait. And before them appears none other than Dr. Ava Page, which of course Thomas and Teresa killed. So it turns out that everything inside the walls, all of it, has all been an enclosed space that Wicked has bought. Like, the entire part of that continent has all been an enclosed space that Wicked has bought. There is no flare virus, and in fact, all the memories that anyone has in the walls were given to them falsely, including Teresa's. The reason Dr. Page is alive is because the other Dr. Page was a clone, and this Dr. Page is also a clone. And they basically, Wicked found a way to clone people, and then they could implement or like implant memories into people. So all they do is, like, because of this, they've sold basically sold clones and memories to people. So people live forever on the outside, and Wicked made a butt ton of money on it. And they bought up half a continent and have been using it as an entire facility to run huge experiments on how people deal with stress. So, like,
that's insane.
Yeah, everyone inside of those walls is a clone, and this Dr. Page is actually also a clone of the original Dr. Page, who is so, like, her memories were taken from the original Dr. Page and then put into her like 100 years ago. So she looks like she's 40, but she's actually like 140.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so the reason Gally didn't remember anything is because he's not the Gally that was in the glade with them. He's a clone that just didn't have any memories. Thomas is a clone of the scientist that they saw. Chuck was, in fact, not his brother. It was just false memories. Teresa is actually a clone of Dr. Page.
Oh.
And the reason that they can do all this is because clones don't have any rights. So they can just be property of Wicked.
Wow.
So they're just biological replicas used for this experiment. Wicked developed the cloning thing and basically sold it, and they could put memories into people. What they also discovered is that if they could put real people's memories in, they wondered if they could put false memories in. So they started implanting clones with false memories, and that's how we got like the serum that Thomas used at the beginning of this movie. That's how Teresa, when she was put into the maze, was actually like just born, and then they injected her with false memories of Thomas. So their entire like relationship is false.
Damn.
Yeah. So Thomas and Teresa were both given false memories. Yeah. And Wicked basically basically invented the virus, and all of the cranks out there were just zombies, like clones that they infected with the virus and didn't give memories so that they would go nuts, and just sent them out there to see how people would deal with a zombie apocalypse that wasn't real. But some of the raiders were like also part of the experiment. They're also clones. They just weren't like set up specifically. They were just sort of like, they put humans into this facility to see how some of them would survive. So Jorge and Brenda are also clones, but they're like, they weren't part of the trials necessarily. They were just humans that they were also studying that they threw in, right? NPCs, but they were also they weren't part of the trials specifically, but they were, let's just study how humans work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So everything within the Scorch was actually just to watch how people work. So then they're all locked up and left to figure out things. And Newt is still dying from this false flare disease, but he still has it. And Teresa and Thomas are shocked because they thought they were going to lead people out and be free, basically special. But they realized like they were never free. Nothing they ever did was free. They were always captured and owned. And they don't even know what freedom meant because they never knew anything because they can't even trust their own memories. But Newt's like, he's dying, and he's like, it doesn't matter. What matters is the memories that you make going forward. And he encourages Teresa and Thomas to find out if they actually want to be together. He's like, fuck all the past memories. You don't know each other. Find out if you want to be together, right? You clearly work well together. And they're like, but what if it's only the memories? And he's like, who cares if it's only the memories? What matters is what happens next, right? And he's like, it doesn't matter if it's false memories. But Teresa is like, she's also, I don't want to be Dr. Page. Like, I'm a clone of Dr. Page. And Newt's like, no, you're still you. You have your own experiences that aren't your memories, the false memories, right? You have your own experiences going forward that will not be Dr. Page's. You're not her. You just look like her, right? The same way that Thomas didn't want the memories that he thought was his old memories, like the false memories, that he didn't want them to be him. So he made a decision based on what he experienced rather than what memories were given to him. He decided he didn't like the memories he was given. He thought they were real, but he was like, I don't like that version of myself. I'm going to be this version of myself. He made a choice. And he's like, and Thomas is like, oh, I get it. Teresa, you can be like this too. You just have to experience more to find out who you want to be. You don't have to be anybody else. And then, and they're like, but they are still trapped, right? They're still trapped. So Thomas is like, Newt's like, it doesn't matter that we're trapped. All of this has always been about our own freedom. Oh, we've always tried to get out. We got out of the maze because we could. We got out of the Scorch because we could. We fought Wicked. We went to the city, all because we were trying to get out from under their tyranny, only to find that the whole thing was under their tyranny. This is just the next level. Even if there's another level after we get out, at least we're fighting to try and be our own people. That's what's important. And so Newt's like, okay, well, we have to get out of here. And they start formulating a plan. And Newt's like, but we have a powerful weapon on our side. And everyone's like, what? And he's like, well, I'm sick. I'm literally a bioweapon. They have a cure, certainly, but that doesn't mean I can't, we've seen what the flare virus can do. Let's fuck some shit up. And so they start making a plan. And when a guard comes in, Newt gives himself over to the virus and attacks the guard. And all of a sudden, like, mayhem breaks loose. They start going from the different cages and cages, opening all the cages up, trying to get out. And the virus starts taking over. And we end with Teresa and Thomas together, but they're truly fighting to be together and for their own freedom, but we don't see what happens. We just see them together. Yeah.
That's much better. I like that.
I just wanted like the entire thing, like nothing was real. Because if you can implant memories, like or erase memories, but also because we had talked about in the first movie, like how do they have language if they don't have memories?
Yeah.
So I was like, well, we can sidestep that problem by saying like Wicked can literally just give you whatever memories it wants.
Yeah.
And when you can do that, that's how I came to this conclusion. And I set that up from the beginning. I was like, well, if Wicked can give you whatever memories you want, then what's to stop them from giving you memories that aren't real?
Yeah.
And then what if the whole thing isn't real?
Yeah,
like Teresa's betrayal, everything about it, none of that was real. It was all just to see how people interact in weird situations. Yeah.
Good shit.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a little depressing, but
I like it because it ends on a hopeful note.
Well, I mean, Newt's still dead, and we don't know how many of them are going to make it out, or even if Thomas and Teresa will make it out. But I think it was important to be like, no, you're fighting for like your own autonomy, even if you're a clone, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're the clone of the person you hate the most, Dr. Page, you are still your own person.
Yeah.
And you are entitled to agency.
Yeah.
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 Good shit.
Any last minute thoughts? I mean, we finished it. We got to the end. I still think my pitch for Divergent was better.
Me too.
Because
like my own
I just feel like there was more to pull from, because there's so many, like, you'd think that a movie that has so many like holes that allows you to fill stuff in would be easier because you can put your own stuff in there. But honestly, when there's like a hard theme to pull out, it becomes very difficult to try and figure out what it is you're going to talk about. That's my problem with this. That's why, even though I thought there were some things that were really smart about the intrigue of these movies, I think Divergent was an easier one to pitch. I think my story was much more coherent across those 4 movies.
Yeah. I have one last thought to leave you with.
Okay.
And that is that the rooftop scene was the real Scorch trial.
Okay. You mean the part where she just like Gwen Stacy's all over that building?
No. When they walk up and it's just fire everywhere.
Oh, that's not funny. Get out of here.
I thought it was pretty funny. Yeah. I have a lot of notes that are just like, Gally's alive. Why?
Yeah, mine is, I think I have a note there that says Gally's alive because plot. One of the things that I think is actually weaker about my pitch, but I wanted to. I also have one that's just like. Go on.
Yeah, and then one of my notes was when they locked themselves in the lab before jumping out of the 20th story and giving themselves enemas.
Yeah.
Was after after Jansen was like, somebody get this door open. I was like, yep, grab the bulkiest soldier and give him a saw.
Yeah. I did do something with my pitch that I don't think is actually that strong, but I wanted to do it anyway. And is I still wanted Teresa and Thomas together. I needed it. I don't know why. I don't think it actually makes any sense, even in my pitch, but I just kind of needed it. Because it
makes your heart happy.
It makes my heart happy, and that's not good storytelling all the time.
That's okay, though. You can have a happy heart.
I can have a happy heart. Thank you.
You can have a happy heart. Mine was not a happy ending.
Yours was all right. I didn't mind it.
It was everybody's dead or dying kind of.
Well, the problem with the problem with your pitch is it didn't get picked up for a 4th season. You had one ready to go, but it didn't get picked up for a 4th season.
Didn't get picked up.
Yeah. Yeah. The network decided it wasn't popular enough, as is the case with a lot of movies and shows. So, as far as I'm concerned, The Maze Runner may not be the smartest series, but at least they finished it. And there's something to be said for that, because a lot of TV shows and movies, including the Divergent series, don't get finished. And that's probably worse, in my opinion, than not being finished in some
Bad closure is better than no closure.
No. Yes. 100%. Bad closure is better than no closure. Yeah. Yeah. Any last minute thoughts, or where can people find you?
No last minute thoughts, but you can find me at twitch.tv/AlyssaLou with 3 O's. Yeah.
You can find our band Robot Philosopher anywhere you listen to music. If you're in Ontario, in Southern Ontario, we're playing some shows now. If you can also check out our other channel, the CineCasters, for more scripted content where we do video essays, very much like this, except less dialogue because it's just me talking. And thank you so much for hanging out with us. Be sure to check out more episodes. Tons of cool stuff here.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Bye.